Hello there, and welcome to the Snoozy Scientist. I'm really glad you found your way here. Tonight, we're setting off on a soft and surreal journey, one that starts with something you've probably glanced at 100 times today without a second thought. It's something we all live by, yet rarely stop to question. It wakes us in the morning, rushes us through days, and quietly tucks us into sleep. It's time, or at least what we think is time. You see, time has rules, or so we've been told. It moves forward, never back. It ticks, it talks, it doesn't wait. But what if that ticking isn't a real thing at all, but just something our minds have agreed to believe in? What if clocks measure something that doesn't actually exist? Before we explore that mystery, let me know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from tonight, and what time is it there? Strange, isn't it? A video about time, and here we are, scattered across hours, days, and time zones, all meeting together in this one quiet moment. If this little journey helps you slow down, breathe easier, or simply fall asleep with a question in your mind and peace in your heart, I'd be so grateful if you gave this video a like and maybe subscribed. It helps this quiet corner of wonder reach others who need a soft place to land at the end of the day. Now, I do hope this isn't so thought provoking that it keeps you wide awake, but if it is, at least you'll be spending the night wrapped in one of the most beautiful questions in all of science. So get comfortable, let your breath slow, because somewhere between memories and dreams, clocks and clouds, lies a simple question with a not so simple answer. Is time real, or have we just imagined it all along? Let's begin. Have you ever noticed how a single minute can feel like an hour and an entire afternoon can disappear without warning? It's one of the strangest things about being human. Time doesn't always feel like it's ticking evenly. Sometimes it stretches, sometimes it races, and sometimes it feels like it stops completely, like everything around you has paused, even though the clock keeps moving. That's because the way we feel time isn't the same as the way we measure it. A minute on the clock is always 60 seconds, but in our minds, it's not so simple. Imagine sitting in a waiting room with nothing to do. The walls are bare. The clock ticks loudly. You glance at your phone, but there's no signal. And for some reason, the only magazine on the table is from 10 years ago. In that moment, even just 5 minutes can feel endless. Your mind becomes very aware of each second. You start to count them, even if you don't mean to. You sigh, you shift in your seat, you check the clock again, and it feels like time is barely moving. Now imagine a different scene. You're deep in conversation with a close friend. You're laughing, sharing stories, maybe sipping tea. You're fully present, not thinking about the time at all. And then suddenly, you glance at the window and realize it's dark outside. Hours have passed, but in your mind, it feels like only a few moments. That's the difference between clock time and felt time. Scientists call this subjective time, and it's shaped by many things: your emotions, your focus, your memories, and even the level of stimulation around you. When you're bored, your brain notices every little detail. Time feels slow because your attention has nowhere to go. It turns inward. You start scanning the environment. You notice the hum of a light, the sound of your own breathing, the ticking of a clock. These extra details make the moment feel longer, not because more time has passed, but because you're more aware of what's passing. But when you're busy, happy, or fully engaged, your brain stops watching the clock. It lets time slip into the background. You're focused on the moment, not on tracking it. And because you're not counting every second, they seem to vanish more quickly. There's a name for this feeling. Psychologists call it a flow state. It's when your mind is completely absorbed in something: painting, writing, dancing, solving a puzzle, playing music, or even just watching the stars. In flow, You lose track of everything else. Time, hunger, even fatigue. They all fade. You're not thinking about how long you've been doing something because the experience has swallowed the clock whole. Interestingly, fear and excitement can also stretch time in strange ways. When something frightening happens, like slipping on ice or hearing a sudden loud noise, people often report that it felt like time slowed down. They say everything moved in slow motion, even though the event lasted only a few seconds. Scientists believe that's because the brain goes into high alert. It starts recording more detail, taking in more information per second. Later, when you remember that moment, it feels longer because there's more mental footage stored in your mind. It's not that time actually slowed, it's that your memory captured more of it. The same can happen during moments of awe, like standing at the edge of a canyon, watching a meteor shower, or hearing a piece of music that gives you chills. These experiences feel larger than life. Timeless, even. They leave behind deeper emotional footprints, so when we look back on them, they feel longer, richer, more full. But time doesn't just stretch and shrink in the moment, it also plays tricks when we look back. A busy, exciting week might fly by while you're living it, but when you remember it, it feels long because your brain recorded so many different things. A quiet routine week might feel slow at the time, but in memory it blurs together. There's less to hold on to. This is one reason why childhood feels like it lasted forever, because everything was new. Your brain was recording constantly. But as we grow older and days become more predictable, time feels like it moves faster, not because the clock is speeding up, but because we're laying down fewer unique memories. So if time feels strange, that's okay. It's not just the clocks and calendars that shape your life. It's your emotions, your focus, your joy, and your wonder. Time, it turns out, is not just something we follow, it's something we feel. Time is strange, but memory makes it even stranger. Think about your favorite childhood moment. Maybe it was a summer afternoon, riding a bike with no hands, the wind in your hair, and the sun flickering through the trees. Or maybe it was the smell of a grandparent's kitchen, or the sound of rain against your bedroom window while you stayed under the covers just a little longer. Now try to remember what happened the day before that, or the day after. You probably can't, not clearly at least, because our minds don't remember time like a calendar. We remember feelings, we remember pictures, sounds, and little flashes of meaning. We remember moments, not minutes. This is one of the most powerful things about memory. It doesn't keep track of everything evenly. It doesn't log your life second by second, like a camera rolling from sunrise to sunset. Instead, it stores highlights, important scenes, emotions, turning points, sights that made you pause, sounds that made you feel something. That's why some days feel long when you live through them, but short when you look back. And other times, it's the opposite. You blink and a year has passed until something reminds you, and suddenly it comes flooding back. Time, as it lives in our memory, doesn't follow the rules on the clock. Scientists say memory is how we give shape to time. Without memory, time would be like sand slipping through your fingers, always moving but never leaving a trace. Memory gives us the sense that we have a past. It tells us who we are and where we've been. Without it, every moment would feel brand new, and not in a good way. But memory is not perfect. In fact, it's a little fuzzy, a little dreamy, and that's what makes it beautiful. When we look back on the past, we don't just play it back like a movie. We rebuild it, we fill in gaps, we smooth over rough edges. Sometimes we add meaning that wasn't there at the time. Our memories are less like photographs and more like paintings, touched up with every glance. This has a curious effect on how we experience time. Let's say you spend an ordinary week doing the same things every day. Wake up, go to work, Eat dinner, go to sleep. Not much changes. At the time, it might feel like the days drag on, but when you look back, that week might seem to have vanished. There were no big moments to hold on to, no new scenes to frame, just a blur. Now imagine you go on a trip, you explore a new city, try new food, meet new people, get lost, laugh, take pictures. That week flies by while it's happening, but when you remember it later, it feels full, rich, long, because your brain saved more of it. That's the difference memory makes. It doesn't just record time, it stretches it, it reshapes it, it builds a story from it. And here's something even more interesting. Our strongest memories are usually tied to strong emotions. That's why you might remember where you were during big life events, even many years later. Joy, fear, love, surprise, they leave deeper marks. They make time more real in our minds. This is also why time seems to speed up as we get older. When we're young, everything is new. The world is full of firsts: first day of school, first pet, first heartbreak, first snow. Our brains are always paying attention, always saving snapshots. But as we grow up and routines settle in, there's less to mark the passage of time. Days start to blend together. Time feels faster, not because it is, but because we're remembering less of it. So if time sometimes feels like a blur, maybe the answer isn't to slow down the clock, but to create more memories worth keeping. Try new things, feel deeply, be present, pay attention to what moves you. Because in the end, memory is what makes time stick. It's what gives shape to the past and meaning to the moments we live through. And maybe that's the secret. Time isn't something we hold on to, it's something we remember. Somewhere deep inside your head, behind your thoughts and memories, behind your senses and feelings, something remarkable is always ticking. It's not a clock with hands or numbers. You can't hear it or see it, but it's there, keeping track of the passing moments, one silent second at a time. It's your brain's clock, and though it may not look like the one on your wall, it's just as important. It helps you move, think, speak, and even make sense of the world around you. Without it, time would feel like a blur, too fast, too slow, or not there at all. So, how does it work? Well, your brain is full of rhythms, tiny patterns, electrical pulses, and chemical signals that move in time, like music played on an invisible piano. These rhythms help your brain keep track of everything from how long it takes to blink to how long you've been waiting for the toast to pop. Some scientists call this an internal clock. Others describe it as a neural timer. But whatever name you give it, the idea is the same. Your brain has ways of sensing how much time is passing, even when you're not looking at a watch. This timing system doesn't live in just one spot. It's more like a team. Different parts of the brain work together to measure different kinds of time. For example, the cerebellum, tucked at the back of your brain, helps you with short, precise movements, like catching a ball or tapping your fingers to a beat. It's very good at measuring fractions of a second. The basal ganglia, a group of structures deeper inside the brain, help with slightly longer time spans, like keeping pace while walking or knowing how long to pause between words in a sentence. Then there's the prefrontal cortex, up near your forehead. This part is involved in attention and decision making. It helps you guess how long something will take or how long you've been doing something. It's the part that makes you think, has it really been that long already? Or wow, that went by fast. None of these parts use a stopwatch. Instead, they rely on patterns, pulses of neurons firing, chemicals being released, circuits turning on and off. Your brain, in a way, counts time through rhythm. And this rhythm is always changing. When you're focused, your brain's clock becomes sharper. You're more aware of every moment. But when you're distracted or sleepy, that sense of time starts to wobble. Minutes feel like seconds, or seconds feel like minutes. It's why time feels different when you're tired or deeply lost in thought. Your internal clock can also be influenced by things like stress, mood, and temperature. Studies have shown that when people are anxious, they tend to overestimate how long things take. The brain becomes hyper aware. It pays close attention to every heartbeat, every breath, every sound, stretching time in the process. On the other hand, when people are relaxed or happy, they tend to underestimate time. Their brains let go of the counting. The moments slip by more easily. Time doesn't feel as heavy. There's another fascinating clock inside you, too, your circadian rhythm. That's the one that helps your body know when to sleep and wake up. It runs on a roughly 24-hour cycle and is connected to light, temperature, and hormones. While it doesn't measure seconds or minutes, it gives your body a sense of daily time, like a soft drumbeat, guiding your energy and alertness across the day. So even when you're not checking the time, your brain and body are keeping track. They're counting in their own way, not with numbers, but with signals and patterns, with tiny waves and pulses. It's not perfect. Sometimes your brain's clock gets it wrong. Sometimes it speeds up or slows down. But most of the time, it's just enough to help you live in sync with the world. And that's the quiet magic of it. And inside you, a clock is always ticking, not in seconds or minutes, but in moments, in rhythm, in memory, in thought. So the next time you feel time slipping by or dragging on endlessly, just remember your brain isn't just watching time go by, it's helping create it, one silent beat at a time. For example, the cerebellum, tucked at the back of your brain, helps you with short, precise movements like catching a ball or tapping your fingers to a beat. It's very good at measuring fractions of a second. Time, in its wild and wandering form, doesn't come with numbers. The sky shifts, the seasons change, shadows move slowly across the ground. But long ago, humans decided that wasn't enough. We wanted to understand time, to tame it, to draw straight lines through something that had no edges. So we built boxes. We created calendars, clocks, and careful systems, not because time asked us to, but because we needed to feel like we had some control over it. We broke it down into years, then months, then weeks, then days. We divided days into hours, hours into minutes, and minutes into seconds. We gave time shape. We turned it into a tool, a schedule, a rule. But time itself, real time, doesn't live by those rules. Still, we follow them. We mark birthdays on calendars and set alarms to wake us up. We make lists and appointments. We measure productivity by the hour and value each day based on how much we can fit inside it. Calendars help us remember. They give us structure. They tell us when to plant and when to harvest, when to rest and when to gather. Long before paper planners and smartphone reminders, people looked to the sky. The moon would wax and wane, and the stars would shift. The sun's position marked the changing seasons. These rhythms were the first clocks, quiet, slow, and reliable. Eventually, we wrote those rhythms down. The calendar was born. But calendars are just maps. They help us move through time, but they're not the land itself. A birthday marked in ink is not the moment you blow out the candles. A date circled in red is not the experience itself. It's only a reminder, a guide. Then came clocks, with gears and hands, bells and chimes. Clocks turned invisible time into something visible and audible. Suddenly, the world could run on a tighter rhythm. You could meet someone at exactly 3 o'clock instead of sometime after lunch. You could measure how long bread should rise or how quickly a train should arrive. Hours and minutes became the heartbeat of daily life. But the more precise our tools became, the more tightly we tried to hold time in our hands. We built workdays around it. We called it spending time, like it was money. We started to feel like we never had enough of it. Time became something we could lose, waste, save, or run out of. We asked people how old they were, how long they'd been doing something, when they would be finished. We filled calendars with back to back plans. We counted down to vacations and counted up the hours we worked. But time, true time, is not something you can cage in boxes. A minute doesn't always feel like a minute. Some hours pass in a blink, others stretch on forever. Some days are filled with life and laughter and color. Others come and go like mist. The calendar says they are the same. The clock says they hold equal weight. But your heart knows better. And even with all our careful counting, we still forget things. We still feel like time is running past us. We still wish for more of it, more time to rest, more time to create, more time to simply be. Maybe that's because time doesn't belong to us. Not really. We don't own it, no matter how many reminders we set or how many schedules we keep. We live within time, like birds inside the sky, like waves inside the sea. Calendars and clocks are useful. They help us live together, plan things, share experiences, but they are only the surface of something much deeper, something softer, something we can feel more than we can measure. So the next time you look at a calendar or check the time on your phone, pause for a moment, breathe. Remember that behind every number is a feeling, a breath, a heartbeat. Time is not just what we mark with pens and alarms, it's the space between those marks. It's how you spend a quiet afternoon. It's the way sunlight moves across your floor. It's the hush before sleep. And that cannot be boxed. Time feels like it should be the same everywhere. A minute here should be a minute there. The sun rises, the day unfolds, the stars return, and yet, depending on where you stand on earth, the time may be something entirely different. It might be morning for you, but night for someone else. You might be brushing your teeth to start the day, while across the ocean someone is climbing into bed. That's because time, as we live it now, isn't just shaped by the sun, it's also shaped by something entirely human, the idea of time zones. Before we invented clocks that could be carried across oceans, time was mostly local. People used the position of the sun to mark their days. Noon was when the sun was highest in the sky, and every town followed its own rhythm. It didn't matter if the village over was a few minutes ahead or behind. Life moved slowly, and nobody needed to sync their watches. But then came trains. With trains came speed, and with speed came confusion. You could leave one city in the morning and arrive in another before the local clock said you had even left. Travelers were arriving before their departures. Schedules became tangled. Something had to change. So, in the late 1800s, we drew lines across the world and divided the Earth into 24 time zones. Each zone would follow a shared standard, a neat and tidy system based more on geography and convenience than on the actual rhythm of the sky. It worked, mostly, but it also meant we had turned time into something a bit less natural and a bit more planned. Time was no longer just the movement of light across the sky, it was a number, a zone, a rule to follow. And that's where jet lag comes in. When you travel quickly across time zones, your body stays on the old schedule. Your mind knows what the clock says, but your internal rhythm, the one that controls your sleep, hunger, and energy, still thinks it's back home. You might arrive in Paris at 9 in the morning, but your body believes it's 2 a.m. You're expected to start your day, but every cell inside you is begging for sleep. This mismatch creates a strange fog. You might feel groggy, wide awake at the wrong hours, or hungry at odd times. That's jet lag, your inner clock arguing with the clock on the wall. Your body is guided by a system called the circadian rhythm, a natural, roughly 24-hour cycle that responds mostly to light. This rhythm tells you when to wake, when to sleep, when to eat, but it doesn't change instantly. It needs time to adjust, to shift slowly in response to morning light and evening dark. Jet lag happens because you've moved faster than your rhythm can follow. It's not just your body that feels the confusion. There's also something quietly emotional about being out of sync with time. You look around and see people starting their day while your own feels like it's ending. The sunlight feels unfamiliar. Meals happen at strange hours. The world seems off balance, not because it's broken, but because your clock and the Earth's have fallen out of step. And yet, time zones are not carved into the sky. They're drawn on maps by people. Some are wide, some are narrow. Some countries choose to stay in one zone all year. Others jump back and forth between standard time and daylight time, like dancers shifting steps with the seasons. It's all a reminder that while time itself may be universal, the way we use it is something we invented. When you think about it, that's kind of beautiful. People all across the planet agreed, more or less, to share time, even if it meant adjusting their clocks and routines. We made time something we could coordinate, plan around, and use to meet each other, even when we're thousands of miles apart. So, next time you feel jet lag tugging at your thoughts, or you scroll past a world clock showing different hours for different cities, pause for a moment. Remember that time, as we live it, is part science and part story. We shape it, and in return, it shapes us. And even when it leaves us wide awake at midnight or falling asleep at noon, it's just another way we've tried to bring a little order to the gentle chaos of being alive on a spinning planet. We all know the feeling. You're standing in line, the person ahead of you is taking forever. The clock on the wall is ticking, but it feels like it's ticking slower than usual. You check your phone, then put it back. You check it again. The line hasn't moved. Every second stretches like warm taffy, long and sticky and slow. Now think of a different moment. You're doing something you love. Maybe it's painting, reading, cooking, or laughing with someone who understands you without words. Hours pass and you don't even notice. You look up and the sun has moved across the sky. Where did the day go? That's the strange thing about time. On the clock, it always moves the same, but in your mind, it bends and shifts. It stretches when you're waiting. It vanishes when you're fully alive. This contrast between waiting and flow is one of the most fascinating things about human time. When we're waiting, we become aware of time in the most intense way. We notice every detail, every second feels like its own event. A sigh, a footstep, a pause. Our brain starts counting, even if we don't mean to. Time feels heavier, slower, almost stuck. Why does that happen? Because boredom gives your attention nowhere to go. When the mind isn't engaged, it turns inward. It starts to scan, to stretch out the moment. It zooms in on little things, the hum of a light, the tapping of a shoe, the changing numbers on a screen. Without anything to distract it, your brain becomes a clock all by itself, watching, and waiting. Now let's flip that around. Flow is the opposite of waiting. Flow is what happens when you're so immersed in something that you lose track of time completely. It's not rushing, it's not hurrying, it's being so focused, so connected, that your awareness of time simply fades. Artists feel it, musicians feel it, so do athletes, writers, scientists, dancers, and daydreamers. Flow can happen when you're playing chess, planting flowers, building something with your hands, or getting lost in a good story. It can even happen in conversation, when two minds are so in tune that the words fall out like rain, and neither person thinks to check the time. When you're in flow, your brain stops measuring. It stops asking, how long has it been? It just is. This state of flow is often described as joyful, energizing, even healing. It makes you feel more alive, not because you're aware of every second, but because you've stepped outside of time's usual grip. You're present, fully. So, why does joy seem to erase time, while boredom makes it drag? It comes down to attention. The tension, when you're joyful or deeply engaged, your attention is focused outward, on the task, on the moment, on the connection. Your brain doesn't bother to keep track of time, it's too busy experiencing life. But when you're bored or restless, your attention folds inward. You start to watch time itself. And when you watch time too closely, it slows down. This has real effects, even in memory. We tend to remember flow states with more fondness. They leave behind a feeling of fullness, of having truly lived that time, not just moved through it. Waiting, on the other hand, often feels like time that was lost, time that didn't leave a mark. But even waiting can be transformed. And hope you enjoy Tui, the tact. Sometimes, simply shifting your focus can change the shape of time, looking up instead of down, noticing the color of the sky, listening to the pattern of passing footsteps, taking a deep breath. Waiting doesn't always have to stretch, it can soften too. And flow doesn't have to be rare. You don't need a masterpiece or a mountain. Sometimes it's just being truly present in what you're doing, even if it's something small. Washing a dish, folding clothes, listening to music, talking to a friend. So the next time you feel time dragging, remember, it's not the minutes that are changing, it's your attention, your presence, your focus. Time will keep ticking either way, but how it feels, that part is yours to shape. For most of history, we thought of time as steady, unchanging, like a river flowing quietly in one direction, always forward, always the same speed. 1 minute followed the next, 1 hour led into another. But then came Albert Einstein, and suddenly, time was not what we thought it was. Einstein didn't just change how we think about time, he changed how we see the entire universe. In the early 1900s, while working as a young patent clerk in Switzerland, Einstein began to wonder about light, about speed, about motion, and what he discovered reshaped everything, not just clocks and calendars, but the very fabric of reality. He realized that time and space weren't separate, they were woven together. Imagine the universe as a soft, invisible fabric. This fabric isn't just space, it's time too. Together, they form something called space-time. It stretches, it curves, it ripples, it holds everything: stars, planets, light, and us. In this fabric, time is not the same everywhere. It bends, it stretches, it flows differently depending on how fast you move or how close you are to something massive. This is Einstein's great insight, the idea that time is not absolute. It doesn't tick the same for everyone. It's not like a drumbeat echoing through space, steady and shared. Time is personal. It depends on where you are and how you're moving. Let's break it down gently. Imagine two people. One stays on Earth, the other goes on a long journey through space, traveling close to the speed of light. When the traveler returns, they've aged less than the person who stayed behind. Maybe only a few years have passed for them, but decades have passed for their friend on Earth. This isn't science fiction. It's a real prediction of Einstein's theory of special relativity, and it has been tested. Atomic clocks flown on fast moving planes tick slightly slower than ones on the ground. The difference is tiny, but it's there. The faster you move, the slower time goes for you. Now add gravity to the picture. Tanai Palms Rep, de Vetherelda to be take for scorpions. Now add gravity teeth with perks. Fermented wasp and lock sime dedem taudets. Auen be a weird bow wolf. Dovert. The ward Kirk first. Thou and the chief the beaks bluff. In Einstein's theory of general relativity, he showed that gravity also affects time. The stronger the gravity, the slower time moves. Not because the clock breaks, but because space-time itself curves. Imagine placing a heavy ball on a soft blanket. The blanket dips. Now imagine rolling a smaller ball nearby. It curves around the dip. That's what massive objects like stars and planets do to space-time. They bend it, and where it bends, time slows down. This is why time runs a little slower, closer to Earth's surface than it does higher up. Not enough to notice in daily life, but enough that GPS satellites, which orbit high above, have to adjust for it. If they didn't, your phone's map would be off by miles within minutes. And near something as extreme as a black hole, time almost stops. In a strong gravitational field, like the edge of a black hole, time slows so much that an outside observer would see it crawling along. A clock near a black hole ticks more slowly than one far away. From the outside, it might look like time is frozen. Einstein's ideas are strange. They're hard to picture, but they've been tested again and again, and they help us understand everything from the motion of galaxies to why starlight bends around the sun. And maybe most beautifully of all, they remind us that time is not fixed. It breathes, it bends, it responds to motion, to mass, to gravity, to the shape of the universe itself. So the next time you check the time, remember your watch is only part of the story. Time is not just something ticking in your pocket or glowing on your screen. It's something alive in the universe, something shaped by the stars, something curved and stretched by gravity and speed. And somewhere out there, in the vast silence of space, time might be moving slower or faster, or maybe not at all. All thanks to the quiet genius who first saw time differently and taught us how to see it too. Let's imagine two people. One stays on Earth, the other boards a spaceship, headed deep into space. The ship moves faster and faster, nearing the speed of light. The traveler waves goodbye and disappears into the stars. Years pass on Earth. Seasons change, children grow up, cities rise, oceans shift. Then, finally, the spaceship returns. The traveler steps out, but something strange has happened, and the person who left hasn't aged much at all. Just a few months, maybe a year, but on Earth, decades have gone by. The friend who stayed behind is older now, wrinkled, gray haired, maybe even gone. How is that possible? It's not science fiction, it's science, a phenomenon called time dilation. Time dilation is one of the strangest and most beautiful predictions of Einstein's theory of relativity. It means that time doesn't pass the same for everyone. It depends on how fast you're moving. The faster you go, the slower your clock ticks compared to someone who is standing still. In everyday life, the difference is too small to notice. You don't age more slowly just by going for a jog. Even airplanes, as fast as they are, barely make a dent in time. But when you get close to the speed of light, the fastest speed in the universe, the effects become dramatic. Let's take it slow and soft. Imagine a ticking clock. Each tick is a second. On Earth, the clock ticks normally. 1 second, then the next. Smooth and steady. Now imagine that same clock riding aboard a spaceship that's traveling close to the speed of light. From the point of view of someone on Earth, that clock ticks more slowly. The seconds stretch, the ticks are farther apart. But from the astronaut's point of view, nothing feels different. Their clock seems normal to them. Their heartbeat, their thoughts, their meals, everything feels just as it always does. Yet when they return to Earth, they realize the truth. Far more time passed here than they experienced out there. This isn't just theory, it's been tested. Physicists have placed atomic clocks on high speed jets and compared them to identical clocks on the ground. When the planes landed, the airborne clocks had ticked slightly less time. The difference is tiny, just billionths of a second, but it's real. The same happens with satellites. GPS systems, for example, wouldn't work properly without adjusting for time dilation. The clocks in orbit tick faster because they're farther from Earth's gravity and moving quickly. Engineers have to account for these shifts, or your phone wouldn't know where you are. But the most dramatic examples would happen in deep space. If we could build a spaceship that traveled near light speed, its crew could experience just a few years, while hundreds or even thousands of years passed on Earth. This idea shows up in stories and movies. A young traveler returns home to find the world changed beyond recognition. Everyone they knew has aged or disappeared. They have crossed not just space, but time. It's a quiet, haunting idea. That time itself bends to speed. To that age and memory and life move at different rates, depending on your journey. Time dilation reminds us that time is not fixed. It's flexible. It stretches and slows, not by magic, but by motion. It also invites us to see time not as a ruler, but as a relationship between movement, gravity, and experience. And maybe, in some gentle way, it helps explain why time can feel different to all of us, why some days last forever and some vanish in a blink, why we sometimes feel like we're racing through life, and other times like the world is moving too fast around us. So as you drift off tonight, imagine yourself aboard a quiet ship, sailing through stars, your clock ticking a little slower, your breath calm and steady. Back on Earth, the world spins on, but for now, you are suspended in stillness, caught in the gentle fold of space and time. And time is on your side. Let's begin with a thought experiment. One twin stays on Earth. Their life unfolds with familiar rhythm. Morning sunrises, rainy afternoons, quiet birthdays, and long walks beneath the stars. Imagine two twins, born just minutes apart. They've always shared the same birthday, the same laugh, the same sparkle in their eyes. But now something big is about to change. The other twin steps into a spaceship, a sleek, shining vessel built for speed. Not just any speed, but close to the speed of light. They wave goodbye, and the engines ignite. In a blink, they vanish into the black velvet of space. The twin on Earth keeps living. They grow older. Watch seasons turn. See wrinkles gather around their eyes. Life moves forward second by second. Years pass. When the traveler finally returns to Earth and the two meet again, something surprising and a little surreal has happened. But the traveling twin? For them, time moves differently. Their ship flies so fast that each moment stretches. Every tick of their clock is a little slower compared to the one left behind. This is the heart of the twin paradox. The one who traveled is younger, and it feels like time has played a trick. The twin who stayed is older. Is older? According to Einstein, the faster you move through space, the slower time passes for you compared to someone standing still. This effect is tiny at everyday speeds, but as you get closer to the speed of light, time begins to stretch like soft taffy. But this isn't a story from science fiction. It's a real prediction from Einstein's theory of special relativity. And though it sounds strange, it's been confirmed again and again by experiments. And here's how it works. In tomorrow, but wait, isn't that a paradox? And so the twin on the spaceship, moving at nearly light speed, experiences fewer seconds, fewer hours, fewer years. They live their life as normal, sleeping, eating, thinking, dreaming, but in a compressed bubble of time. While they feel like only a few years have passed, their sibling on Earth has lived through many more. After all, couldn't both twins claim that the other was the one moving? The key difference is acceleration. That's a good question. The traveling twin has to speed up, turn around in space, and come back. That change in direction, that acceleration, makes their experience different from the one who stayed still on Earth. It breaks the symmetry, it marks them as the traveler, and it's why they age more slowly. Time doesn't tick the same for everyone. This paradox, this beautiful brain bending idea, shows us just how flexible time can be, not just in theory, but in the fabric of the universe. It's personal. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, imagine two twins again. Now, in real life, we don't yet have spaceships that can move near the speed of light, but we do see the effects of time dilation in small ways, with fast moving particles, with satellites in orbit, even with tiny clocks on airplanes. And every one of those experiments points to the same truth. Einstein was right. It's shaped by motion, by gravity, and by where you are. One lies beneath soft blankets on Earth, and weighs on it. The other floats far away, among silent stars wrapped in stillness, their ship humming gently through the void. They are moving through time together, yet apart. Out in the vast dark of space, beyond the shimmer of stars and the swirl of galaxies, there are places where time behaves like a secret. Places where gravity grows so strong it doesn't just bend light or pull planets, it stretches time itself. These places are called black holes, and they are among the strangest things we know in the universe. A black hole is born when a massive star collapses under its own weight. It folds in, tighter and tighter, until all its mass is squeezed into a single invisible point. Around it, a boundary forms, called the event horizon. Once something crosses that line, it can never return. Not light, not sound, not even time as we understand it. But let's take it slow. Well, imagine floating near a black hole, not too close, just near enough to feel its pull. You're in a spaceship, calm and steady, with a large window looking out into the stars. You check your watch. 1 second, then another. Inside the ship, everything feels normal. You breathe, you blink, your heart beats. But back on Earth, your friends are watching you from far away. They see your ship hovering near the black hole, and something strange is happening. From their point of view, your watch is moving slowly, very slowly, Your breathing seems drawn out, your movements stretch. It's as if you're moving through honey. To them, time around you is dragging, but to you, it feels perfectly normal. Time always feels normal inside your own bubble. This is the magic and mystery of gravity's effect on time. Einstein showed us that gravity isn't just a force, it's the bending of space and time, and the stronger the gravity, the more it bends. Near a black hole, gravity becomes so intense that it stretches time like soft dough. The closer you get to the event horizon, the more time slows down. If you were to hover right at the edge, just above that invisible line, time for you would nearly stop compared to someone far away. You could spend just a few minutes there, and when you returned, hundreds or even thousands of years might have passed in the universe beyond. It sounds like fantasy, but it's real physics, and we've seen hints of it. In 2019, scientists captured the first ever image of a black hole, a glowing ring of light around a shadowy center. That image didn't just show us the black hole, it showed us how time behaves near it. The light around the black hole was twisted and stretched, shaped by gravity and the slow crawl of time. You might remember a movie that explored this idea, a scene where astronauts land on a planet near a black hole, and just a few hours there equals decades back on Earth. It's a story, yes, but it's based on truth. Black holes remind us that time is not fixed. It bends, it slows, it whispers in quiet ways we can barely imagine. And here's a gentle thought. If time can slow to almost nothing near a black hole, what does that say about our own moments? What does it mean to pause, to be still, to sit quietly and feel the breath move in and out? Maybe in some tiny way, we all carry little black holes inside us, moments so heavy with meaning or emotion that they seem to last forever. Maybe time is not just about clocks or calendars, but about depth, about gravity, about how deeply a moment pulls on us. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine drifting near a black hole, not afraid, but curious. Time is slowing, the stars are swirling, and somewhere between forever and now, you realize you are floating in a universe where time itself can stretch, pause, and and yet here you are, safe and still, exactly where you need to be. Let's shrink things down tonight. Down past your room, your town, the clouds above. Past molecules, atoms, and even smaller, into the strange and shimmery world of quantum physics. A place so small that it's hidden beneath the surface of everything, beneath your blanket, beneath your breath, beneath every grain of sand and speck of light. And here, in this quiet world of the very tiny, time begins to feel uncertain, not broken, just blurry. We're like trying to catch fog with your hands. This is the world of quantum time. In our everyday lives, time feels clear and dependable. Seconds tick forward. A minute is always 60 seconds. The past stays behind us, and the future waits ahead. But when we peer into the quantum world, the realm of particles so small they make atoms look enormous, things do not follow the same rules. Here, particles do strange things. They can be in more than one place at once. You're shocked. They can spin in opposite directions at the same time, and sometimes they seem to jump from one moment to another, skipping any clear path in between. That's where time starts to feel slippery. Hu- Let's take a particle, say an electron, a tiny building block of matter. If we want to know where it is and when it got there, we run into a problem, because the more precisely we know its position, the less we know about how fast it's moving. And if we know how fast it's moving, we lose track of exactly where it is. This is called the uncertainty principle, and it makes time, real, flowing time, hard to pin down. In fact, some physicists believe that time at the quantum level doesn't flow at all, not in the way we imagine. Instead of a smooth river, time down here might be more like scattered drops, little packets of moments. Or maybe not even that. Maybe time isn't fundamental at all. Maybe it's something we only notice when we look at bigger things, like planets, apples, and people. Some theories even suggest that time is an illusion we've created to make sense of change, that deep down the universe doesn't tick or talk, it simply is, still, whole, complete, and we, like readers turning pages in a book, are just moving through it, moment by moment. Now, this can feel a little unsettling, a world where time doesn't exist, where everything happens all at once, or maybe not at all. But it's also strangely comforting, but because it means the universe is full of mystery, that even the smartest scientists don't have all the answers, that there are still questions left to ask and places left to wonder about. And here's something even more curious. In some quantum experiments, particles behave as if their actions in the present depend on things that haven't happened yet, almost as if the future can reach back into the past and whisper instructions. It's called quantum entanglement and delayed choice. And while the math checks out, the meaning is still up for debate. Some scientists say these effects challenge the very idea of a timeline. That cause and effect might not be as simple as before and after. Imagine dropping a pebble in a pond and seeing ripples appear before the pebble even touches the water. That's how odd quantum time can feel. But remember, just because it's strange doesn't mean it's wrong. The universe doesn't owe us easy explanations. It only offers invitations. And with Sayers Sheed and Gyang, fried at Beethoven Gui, invitations to slow down, to look closer, to ask gentle questions in the dark. And tonight, you are part of that wonder. As you lie there, soft and still, know that your body is made of atoms, and inside those atoms are particles, and those particles live in the world of quantum time, where seconds fade, rules blur, and possibilities stretch wide like stars. You're made of mystery, and maybe so is time. So if your thoughts feel a little fuzzy now, that's okay. If the idea of timelessness makes you feel small, let it also make you feel vast, because somewhere inside you, time is dancing, pausing, skipping, disappearing, and yet here you are, breathing, resting, drifting, right on time. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine watching a cup fall to the floor. It slips from your hand, hits the ground, and shatters into a dozen pieces. You hear the crash, you feel the surprise, and maybe the sigh of a little regret. Now imagine that same scene in reverse. Be- the broken pieces lift off the floor, they spin through the air, they fit perfectly back together in your hand. The sound rewinds into silence. Strange, right? Almost magical. But why? After all, the laws of physics, gravity, motion, energy, work just as well backwards as they do forwards. If you write them as equations, they don't care which way time moves, forward or backward, they hold true. And yet, in real life, we never see time move in reverse. We remember the past. We never remember the future. We grow older, not younger. And melted ice does not refreeze on its own. This is the mystery of the arrow of time. An arrow, by its nature, moves in one direction. It flies forward, not back. And so does time. at least as far as we can tell. But why? Why does time have a direction when the universe's rules seem to allow both ways? To answer that, we need to talk about something called entropy. Entropy is a fancy word for disorder, messiness, the number of ways a system can be arranged. A neat bedroom has low entropy, a messy one, with clothes on the floor and books stacked sideways, has high entropy. And the second law of thermodynamics, one of the most trusted rules in physics, says this: in a closed system, entropy always increases. In other words, things tend to go from order to disorder. Ice melts, coffee cools, buildings crumble. That's not because things can't go the other way, it's just incredibly unlikely. The number of ways for something to be disordered is far, far greater than the number of ways it can be perfectly arranged. It's much easier to make a mess than to clean one up. And this increase in entropy is what gives time its direction. We remember breaking the cup, not unbreaking it. We feel heat flow from the kettle to the air, not the other way around. Our sense of time, of past and future, is tied to this flow of energy, this gradual drift from neatness to noise. But here's where it gets even more curious. If we look at the universe as a whole, from its earliest moments to today, we see that it started in a state of incredibly low entropy, neat, ordered, calm, and ever since, it's been expanding, stretching, cooling, becoming more complex, more tangled, more messy, which is exactly what entropy predicts. And but no one really knows why the universe started that way, why it began in such a clean, precise state. It's one of the deepest questions in cosmology. And until we know that, we don't truly know why time moves the way it does. Still, the arrow of time gives our lives a shape, and it makes stories make sense. It lets seeds become trees and babies grow into grandparents. It gives music rhythm. It gives memories meaning. It gives us a sense of progress, of change, of becoming. And yet, in the quantum world, time does not seem so strict. In black holes, time nearly stops. In dreams, it bends. And in our own memories, it drifts like fog across a lake. Maybe time always moves forward because we are made of entropy, because our hearts beat in a universe that is gently unraveling. And maybe the arrow of time is not something we see, but something we are. So tonight, as you lie quietly and the minutes drift by, remember this: each second is a tiny step along the arrow's path. Each breath is a ripple in the stream of change. And though we may not rewind, we are always carried forward into new thoughts, new dreams, new beginnings. Let that be a comfort, not because time cannot go backward, but because going forward is what makes every moment so beautifully unique. Just once, just now, and never again in quite the same way. Let's imagine a simple scene. You're holding a cookie in your hand. You take a bite, and a few crumbs fall to the floor. Maybe one lands on your shirt, another rolls under the table. Before you know it, that one perfect cookie is gone, now a scattered little mess. Now ask yourself this: have you ever seen those crumbs leap back together, float up from the floor, and turn back into a perfect cookie? No, of course not. That's not how the world works. But here's the strange thing: if you wrote down all the physics of that cookie crumbling, every motion, every particle, every collision, those equations wouldn't say you can't reverse it. They'd say it's possible. And yet, it never happens. This is where entropy comes in. We'll Entropy is a fancy word for disorder, or more gently, it's the measure of how mixed up or spread out things are. A tidy room has low entropy, a messy one has high entropy, a solid block of ice has low entropy, a puddle of warm water has more. And here's the rule the universe seems to follow. Entropy always increases. In simple terms, the world naturally goes from order to disorder, from neat to messy, from sharp to blurry. You see this every day. Ice melts, leaves fall, buildings wear down. It's not that they can't go the other way, it's just incredibly, overwhelmingly unlikely. It's like shaking up a jar of red and blue beads. They mix fast, but getting them to unmix, to fall back into perfect stripes again, you could shake for eternity and never see it happen. That's entropy in action. Pe- But why does this matter to time? Because entropy gives time its direction. Think about it. Most laws of physics don't care which way time moves. Whether a ball rolls forward or backward, the math still works. But entropy, it only flows one way, forward. That's why we can remember the past but not the future. It's why we age instead of growing younger. It's why you can stir milk into coffee but never stir it back out. Entropy tells us which way is forward. And in that way, it might be the reason we even experience time at all. But that raises a deep and dreamy question. Does time move forward because entropy increases? Or does entropy increase because time is moving forward? It's a cosmic chicken and egg puzzle, and no one has solved it yet. And third, some physicists think time isn't really a basic part of the universe. They say it's just a way we keep track of change, a story our brains tell as entropy quietly ticks along behind the scenes. Others think the key lies at the beginning of the universe, the Big Bang. At that first moment, everything was packed tightly together in a strange kind of order, low entropy, a blank slate. And from that starting point, the universe began to unfold. Stars formed, planets spun, life appeared, and entropy started rising, one moment after another. But why did the universe start that way? Why not with chaos? Why not with everything already mixed? That too is a mystery, a big one. Still, in our everyday lives, entropy keeps whispering. It tells us why we can drop a glass and shatter it, but never expect it to leap back together. It's why you can't unstir your soup, unburn your toast, or unage your cat. It's the quiet clock we don't see, but always follow. And maybe, just maybe, it has something to teach us. That change is part of life, that messiness is natural, that the past cannot return, but the future is still open. So as you settle in tonight and drift towards sleep, don't worry about the little crumbs, the undone chores, the things that slipped through your fingers today. They're just part of entropy, part of the story. And that story is still unfolding, moment by moment, like ripples in a calm sea. Because maybe time isn't just about moving forward. Maybe it's about learning to let go, gently, fully, and allowing the world to become whatever it's becoming next. And in that peaceful drift, you too can simply rest. Some equations don't need time at all. If you could peel back the layers of reality, past the ticking clocks and swirling galaxies, past the atoms and even the particles inside them, you'd eventually reach a strange and quiet place, a place where time itself might be missing. This isn't science fiction, it's a real puzzle in modern physics. And you see, most of us grow up thinking time is a constant companion. It marches forward, second by second. It tells us when to wake, when to eat, when to sleep, We imagine the universe running like a giant clock, with time as its heartbeat. But when physicists write down the equations that describe the very deepest levels of nature, the ones meant to explain everything, something curious happens. Time disappears. One of the most famous examples is called the Wheeler-DeWitt equation. It's an attempt to combine Einstein's theory of gravity with the mysterious rules of quantum mechanics. Basically, it's a blueprint for the universe. But when you look closely, there's no time variable in the equation. That means, in this picture, the universe doesn't tick, it doesn't move forward. There is no before or after, just a single vast, timeless whole. This is often called the problem of time in physics, but it might be more of a clue than a problem. It suggests that time, the way we experience it, might not be fundamental. It could be something that emerges from deeper rules, like how temperature isn't a property of one atom, but of many atoms dancing together. In the same way, maybe time shows up only when lots of things interact matter, energy, and observers like us. And without those ingredients, maybe the universe just is. Some physicists even describe the universe like a grand sculpture rather than a flowing river. All of time exists, all at once, past, present, and future, like the whole shape carved out in space-time. We just happen to experience one slice of it at a time. This idea connects to something called the block universe, the notion that everything already exists in one complete whole. Nothing is becoming, it has already been. To our minds, that feels a bit unsettling. After all, we remember the past, not the future. We live through change. We feel time passing in our bodies and our breath. So, how can time be an illusion? Well, it might be that our experience of time, the way it flows, the way we feel now, is a trick of consciousness, a kind of mental stitching together of snapshots, like a flipbook animation, where still images become motion. In this view, time isn't something the universe needs, it's something we need to make sense of change, memory, and cause and effect. But the universe itself? It might not care. It may not even notice the difference between before and after. This doesn't mean nothing changes. It just means the change is built into the structure, like all the frames of a movie already printed on the film. The story doesn't unfold in real time, it's already there. We simply walk through it. And so, if time isn't fundamental, what is? Maybe it's relationships, motion, information. Maybe the universe is a web of connections, and time is just how we've learned to count the pulses. Or maybe we're still missing something even deeper, something that hasn't yet been discovered. Either way, this chapter of physics reminds us to be gentle with our assumptions. Even the idea of time, so familiar, so constant, may be less solid than we think. And somewhere in those timeless equations, in that still and silent math, the universe quietly holds its shape without ever needing to tick. What is time, really? Not the hours printed on a calendar or the ticking hands of a clock, not even the sunrise or sunset, but time as you feel it passing by, stretching, shrinking, slipping through your fingers. You know it, you live by it, but can you point to it? Can you hold it? That's where things get strange. Time feels like something we experience out there in the world, but more and more science is suggesting it might actually live inside of us. Our minds are constantly organizing experience, stitching one moment to the next, storing memories, imagining what's to come. This weaving together of moments gives us the sense that time is flowing, but it might just be the mind creating that flow to help us make sense of change. You see, The brain doesn't have a single master clock. It relies on many rhythms. There are pulses of light and dark from the sun. There are chemical signals inside your cells. There are neural patterns that track beats and pauses. All these rhythms work together, but not perfectly. They're like dozens of musicians playing in the same orchestra, sometimes harmonizing, sometimes not. That's why your sense of time isn't fixed. When you're anxious or bored, a minute can feel like forever. When you're relaxed or focused, hours can melt away. And your memory? It doesn't store time evenly either. You don't remember life minute by minute. You remember important flashes, emotions, surprises. That's why some years feel like they passed in a blink, while others stretch out in vivid detail. In many ways, your brain doesn't track time, it tracks meaning. It notices change, and it links that change to what matters: joy, danger, beauty, connection. When something stands out, it carves a deeper mark in memory. That mark becomes a landmark in your inner map of time. Think about dreams. Inside a dream, a single moment can feel like an entire day. You might walk through forests, fly over mountains, visit people you haven't seen in years, all in just a few seconds of real world sleep. The dream creates its own version of time, and it feels real while you're in it. The same thing can happen in meditation or when you're lost in thought. Time drifts away. The pressure of before and after fades. You're not thinking about what's next. You're simply here, breathing, resting, being. Even traumatic events can reshape time. In moments of fear or shock, the brain shifts into high alert. It starts collecting details with incredible speed, like a camera snapping pictures in rapid fire. That's why people sometimes say time slowed down during an accident. The brain wasn't slowing time, it was speeding up awareness. From all of this, it starts to seem like time is not just something we notice, it's something we build. We build it from movement, from change, from memory, from attention. Without those things, the sense of time starts to blur. That's why people in sensory isolation or floating in complete darkness often lose track of it entirely. The body's rhythms continue, but the brain has no external events to hang those rhythms on. Minutes stretch, hours vanish, time becomes a fog. So perhaps time, as we feel it, is less like a line and more like a shape we draw in our minds. A shape filled with peaks and valleys, quiet moments and loud ones, a landscape painted from memories, emotions, and expectations. And in this way, time might not be a property of the universe, but a feature of the way we understand it. That doesn't make time any less useful. It helps us stay on track, make plans, meet each other at the right place. But the next time you feel time rushing by or dragging its feet, pause for a moment. Notice that it isn't time itself that's changing, it's you. And maybe, just maybe, time has always been a mirror, one that reflects the rhythm of your life, not the ticking of a distant clock. Have you ever woken up from a dream that felt like it lasted for hours, maybe even days, only to glance at the clock and realize you had only been asleep for a few minutes? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Like you lived a whole lifetime inside your mind, while the world outside barely moved at all. This experience is so common and yet so mysterious. It leaves us with a curious question: what is time, really, when we are dreaming? And if dream time can feel so full and real, then which version of time should we trust? The one on the clock or the one we feel? To explore this, let's start with what happens to the brain while we sleep. When you drift off, your brain doesn't just switch off. It enters a series of stages, moving from light sleep to deep sleep, and then into something called REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement. This is when your brain becomes active again, almost as if you're awake, but your body stays still. And this is when most vivid dreams happen. During REM sleep, the brain creates stories. It pulls pieces from your memories, your emotions, your thoughts, and your imagination. It blends them together in ways that feel real while you're dreaming, even if they don't always make sense afterward. A hallway becomes a forest. A stranger becomes your childhood friend. Time jumps forward, loops back, stretches, and folds. Inside the dream, all of this feels normal. Scientists have studied this strange dream time by asking people to do tasks while dreaming, like counting to 10 or moving their eyes back and forth. Then, when they wake up, they compare how long it felt with how long it actually took. The results? Dream time does seem to run a little slower than real time, but not by much. What's truly strange is how elastic it feels. A short nap can hold an entire dream adventure. A full night's sleep might offer nothing but a flash. This is because the brain does not measure time in sleep the same way it does when we're awake. When you're awake, you constantly take in clues from the world: the sun moving across the sky, the ticking of a clock, the rhythm of your breath. These give your brain markers to keep track of time. But in dreams, those markers are missing. Your brain is free to invent its own rhythm, and it often does. That's why a dream can seem to last for hours, even if only a few real minutes have passed. But here's where it gets more fascinating. If time in a dream feels real while we're inside it, then what does that say about our waking experience of time? Could that also be something the brain is constructing moment by moment? After all, we only ever experience the present. The past lives in memory, the future lives in imagination. So, in both waking life and dreams, our experience of time is built from inside, not outside. Dreams also show us how flexible time can be. You can fall asleep, dream of crossing oceans, visiting places you've never seen, having long conversations, reliving old memories, all in the space between two alarms. It's not that time behaves differently in dreams, it's that your brain no longer follows the rules it usually does. Without sunlight, without clocks, without the usual flow of events, it makes its own structure. A dream has its own timeline, written not by physics but by feelings. Sometimes you skip hours, sometimes you live whole chapters, other times you're stuck in a single moment, repeating it again and again. And when you wake up, you return to the world of clocks, the world that runs on seconds, minutes, and hours. But perhaps both kinds of time are real, just in different ways. Waking time is shared. It helps us meet each other, organize our lives, and understand change in the world around us. Dream time is personal. It helps us process emotion, build memory, and explore without limits. So the next time you wake from a dream that seemed to last forever, don't be surprised if the clock says you were only asleep for a little while. Your mind is a remarkable storyteller, and in dreams, time bends to its will. Because time, whether waking or dreaming, may not be a fixed river we float along. It might be a canvas we paint on from the inside out. Close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. No need to rush. Now gently breathe out. Notice how everything around you seems to quiet down, even just a little. The air feels softer, the sounds fade into the background, and without trying, you've already taken your first step into a different kind of time. Meditation, whether it's sitting in silence, focusing on your breath, or simply being still, has a strange effect on how we feel time. Many people describe it the same way. They sit down for what feels like just a few minutes, only to open their eyes and discover that half an hour has passed. Or the other way around, they feel like they've been sitting forever, only to realize it's only been 5 minutes. Time, it seems, does not behave normally in stillness. But why? Let's explore. When we meditate, the brain changes its rhythm. The usual noise of thinking, planning, remembering, worrying quiets down. Certain parts of the brain, especially those involved in tracking time and judging how long things take, become less active. In everyday life, we're always moving between moments. We look at the time, we check the next thing on the list, we plan dinner, we think about what happened yesterday and what might happen tomorrow. But meditation invites us to step out of that flow. It encourages the mind to return again and again to the present, not the clock's present, but a deeper kind of now, the kind of now that has no edge, no number, no rush, just breath, just being. Scientists have found that in deep meditation, people often lose their usual sense of time altogether. They don't just feel relaxed, they feel unmoored, like they are floating. There is no before, no after, just this. Some call this timelessness, not because time disappears completely, but because our awareness of it loosens. The mind stops holding so tightly to minutes and seconds. Instead, it drifts or settles like a snowflake coming to rest. And something beautiful happens in that space. We start to notice things we usually miss, the way the chest rises and falls, the faint sound of a breeze, the warmth of our own skin. And without the pressure of time moving forward, those tiny moments grow wide and deep. One breath becomes an ocean. 1 second becomes enough. In many ancient traditions, timelessness through meditation is seen not as an escape, but as a return to something more real than the ticking of a clock, a way of seeing the world not as a race, but as a still pond reflecting the sky. In Buddhism, it's said that when the mind is fully present, time no longer pulls us. There is just awareness, fresh, clear, and open. In some forms of Christian prayer, there's a similar idea. Stillness brings you closer to eternity, which isn't about endless time, but the absence of it. In Hinduism and many indigenous practices, meditation or quiet focus connects you to something larger, something beyond time altogether. Even outside of spiritual practice, you may have felt this during a quiet walk in nature, or watching waves roll in, or lying under the stars. There's a sense that the moment stretches out, that there's no need to be anywhere else, that perhaps you have stepped out of time, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. Meditation, in all its forms, reminds us that time is not only about clocks and calendars, it's also about attention. And when we give our attention to the now, without judgment or urgency, time changes shape. It slows down, or it vanishes. This does not mean time stops existing, but for a while we stop chasing it, we stop fearing it, and instead we rest inside it. So the next time the world feels too fast or your mind feels scattered, try sitting still. Close your eyes. Breathe in. Breathe out. You may just find that time, that ever ticking companion, takes a step back. And in its place, there is peace. Not forever, just for now. And sometimes, now is all we need. What would a timeless universe be like? Imagine waking up, but without the memory of falling asleep. You are here, not before, not after, just here. No ticking clock, no sunrise or sunset, no waiting for anything, and nothing fading into the past. Just an endless, steady now. It sounds strange at first, doesn't it? We are so used to time as a stream flowing from one moment to the next. One event leads to another. That's how stories work. That's how our lives work. But what if that stream stopped moving? What if there was no current at all? What would it feel like to live in a universe where time does not exist? This idea is more than just a dreamy thought. In physics, there are some theories that suggest time might not be fundamental. That means time might not be a basic building block of the universe. It could be something that only shows up under certain conditions, the way a rainbow only appears when light hits water in just the right way. Let's try a thought experiment. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a painting, not one being painted, not one aging or changing, just a frozen, complete picture. Everything in that scene is exactly as it is. Now, imagine that instead of one painting, there are countless ones, each one showing a slightly different arrangement of the universe. In one, you are drinking tea. In the next, you are smiling at a friend, and in another, you are fast asleep. These paintings do not move, they just exist side by side, or maybe layered like pages in a book. What we experience as time could simply be our mind flipping through those pages. So instead of the universe unfolding moment by moment, maybe every moment already exists, all at once. We just experience them in a certain order, giving us the feeling of time flowing. Strange, right? But some scientists and philosophers take this idea seriously. It's called the block universe theory. In this view, the past, present, and future are all equally real. Nothing happens, everything simply is. But what would that mean for us? Would anything still matter if there's no change, no motion, no before or after? Maybe yes, maybe not in the way we think of mattering, but in a quieter way. Think of a photograph of someone you love. It doesn't move, it doesn't speak, but it holds something, a feeling, a truth. It doesn't need to change to be real, it just is. In a timeless universe, perhaps everything would be like that, still, whole, complete. No countdowns, no deadlines, no waiting rooms, just pure existence without expectation. Of course, this is hard to fully grasp. We live by time, we grow, we remember, we dream about tomorrow. Our very thoughts seem tied to movement. So, how can we understand something so completely still? Maybe we catch glimpses of it when we sit quietly and feel peace without knowing how long it's lasted. When we look at the stars and feel that they have always been there. When a moment feels so deep, so full, that it stretches into something beyond time. That might be what a timeless universe feels like. Not silent, but still. Not empty, but endless. And here's another thought. If time is not real, then perhaps change is only something our minds create. Maybe reality is a single breath that never ends, a single now, holding all that ever was or will be. Would that make life feel smaller or bigger? It depends on how we look at it. If we are not racing toward the future, then perhaps we can finally pay attention to the present, to the taste of tea, the sound of a breeze, the quiet feeling of being alive. A timeless universe might not give us more moments, but it might remind us to treasure the one we already have. So as we float here, in this moment between wonder and sleep, let's stay just a little longer with this question. What if time never started? What if it never moved? What if everything you have ever loved, every moment you have ever lived, is still here, not gone, but waiting inside the now? No past. Prepare spankold uw teeth, cavries unto, berengt bear, from the jursey hold perks blocked in all, no future, and just this. And for now, maybe that is enough. Past, present, and future may all exist simultaneously. Imagine walking into a library, but this isn't just any library. There are no people inside, no ticking clocks, just row after row of books, stretching on forever. Each book holds a moment, a single frozen scene from the universe. One book shows a star being born, another shows a snowflake melting on your fingertip. Far down the shelf, there's a book where dinosaurs still walk. And tucked away in a quiet corner, there's a book that hasn't happened yet. One where you are older, sitting in a different place, breathing under a different sky. Now imagine that all these books already exist, not being written, not waiting to be read, just there. That, in essence, is the idea behind the block universe. It's a theory from physics that says time might not be a flowing river, but more like a landscape, a whole terrain that exists all at once. In this view, the past has not disappeared, the future hasn't yet to arrive. Everything, every second of your life, every era of the cosmos is part of a vast, unchanging whole. Think of a map. When we stand on it, we experience only one spot, but the entire map, mountains, valleys, oceans, cities, exists at once. We may only see one step at a time, but every step is already part of the world. The block universe says time might work like that. From your point of view, you are reading this now. A moment ago is gone, and tomorrow is a mystery. But in the block universe, those other moments haven't vanished. They're just elsewhere, still existing in the structure of reality, like other pages in a book you've already closed or not yet opened. It's a hard idea to accept because we feel time passing so deeply. We watch children grow up. We feel birthdays and anniversaries. We see change all around us. But what if change is just our mind's way of walking across the map? Our experience of now may simply be the slice we're currently aware of, like a flashlight beam moving across a painting. The whole picture is always there, but we only see a part at a time. This idea challenges how we think about everything. If the future already exists, do we still have free will? Can we truly make choices, or are we just playing out a path that's already written? Some people find that question uncomfortable, others find it comforting, because if every moment already exists, then maybe nothing is ever truly lost. The people we've said goodbye to, the ones we miss, they are still part of that eternal landscape, still living in their own chapters, frozen in their own light. And maybe that's what memory really is, not just a replay inside your brain, but a tiny glimpse into another page of the universe, a soft return to something that still exists. Of course, this is a theory. It may or may not be true, but thinking about it can stretch the way we see ourselves. It reminds us that we are more than just passing moments. We are part of something wide and strange and beautiful, a universe where every heartbeat, every hello and goodbye is always somewhere, always real. The block universe does not mean we are stuck. It simply means that time, as we feel it, might not be a straight line. It could be a quiet maze, a gentle spiral, a song where every note plays at once, even though we only hear them one at a time. It means this moment, right now, the soft hum around you, the rhythm of your breath, the quiet in your chest might be part of something eternal, a moment that never truly leaves. So the next time you feel time slipping by too fast, or you miss something that once was, remember this idea. Maybe that moment is still out there, still alive, still holding its place on the shelf of the universe. Not gone, just elsewhere. And if that's true, then every second of love, laughter, and wonder you've ever felt still exists, just waiting to be noticed again. No need to rush, no, no fear of forgetting, because maybe time isn't moving at all. Maybe it's just you gently wandering through the pages. If all of time already exists, do we truly choose? Let's imagine you're standing at a fork in a quiet path. One trail winds left through tall trees and golden leaves. The other bends right toward a small river and smooth stones. You pause, you think, and then you choose the right path. Seems simple enough, doesn't it? A decision made, a direction taken. But what if, in some strange, quiet layer of reality, both paths were already there, already part of the map, already walked? You just happen to be standing in the moment where you realize which one you're on. This is the strange question that comes from the idea of a block universe, the view that all of time exists at once. Past, present, future, already there, already written, just like pages in a book you're slowly reading, one at a time. And here's where it gets a little unsettling. If the future already exists, do we really have free will? Do we actually choose our path? Or are we just discovering steps that we're always waiting? Let's take a breath here. This is one of the deepest and oldest questions in philosophy, science, and even spirituality. Are we truly in control of our lives? Or is everything, every laugh, every mistake, every moment of wonder already part of a fixed timeline? From the way we experience life, it certainly feels like we choose. You picked your clothes today. You decided what to eat. You're choosing right now to listen, to wonder, to think. That feeling of choice is powerful. It's part of what makes us feel alive. But physics, especially when we think about time as something already laid out, raises a quiet doubt. If the future is just as real as the past, how can we change anything? How can we make a decision if the outcome is already there, already written in the fabric of the universe? Some scientists and philosophers say free will might be an illusion, a very convincing one, but still just a feeling. They say we are like passengers on a train, looking out the window, seeing scenes pass by. We feel like we're steering, but the tracks were laid long before we climbed aboard. Others disagree. They believe that time may be fixed in structure, but we still play a role in how it unfolds. Like a reader choosing how to feel about a story, our attention, our thoughts, our emotions might still shape how time feels, even if the story itself is already bound in the book. And then there's a gentler view, one that doesn't claim to solve the mystery, but simply embraces the wonder of it. It says this: maybe free will and fixed time are not enemies. Maybe they are two parts of the same dance. Time is the stage, and we are the dancers. The music is written, but the way we move through it still matters. Think of it this way: when you remember your past, you don't feel trapped by it. You reflect, you learn, and sometimes you grow. Maybe the future is the same, already there, but still full of discovery, still full of moments where your choices matter deeply, even if they are gently guided by something larger. Some thinkers call this compatibilism, the idea that we live in a determined world, but we still have meaningful freedom. Like being in a dream where the ending is set, but the experience is still yours. The colors, the feelings, the pauses, all yours. So, do we truly choose? Maybe yes, maybe no, or maybe the truth is more mysterious than either answer. Maybe the question itself is part of the journey, a reminder that we are small but curious, that we move through life not just as observers, but as explorers of a universe that is stranger than we can see and more beautiful than we can fully explain. Right now, you are choosing to listen, to slow down, to wonder. And maybe, just maybe, that's all the proof of free will we'll ever need. Not because the future is unwritten, but because the present still feels like a gift, one you open with your own hands. Whether you believe your story is already finished or still being written as you breathe, you are still part of something miraculous, a life that feels like yours, a moment that feels real, a choice that feels free. Could time be a code, not a constant? Let's start with a simple thought. What if everything around you, the room you're in, the stars outside your window, even the ticking clock on the wall, is not as solid or as certain as it seems? What if all of it, down to the seconds you feel passing, is just lines of code running in a system too big for us to see? It might sound like science fiction, but some scientists and philosophers have taken this question very seriously. It's called the simulation theory, and at the heart of it lies a strange and unsettling idea that our entire universe might be a simulation, a kind of incredibly complex program created by something or someone far more advanced than we are. And if that were true, what would that mean for time? Let's imagine you're playing a video game. In the game, time seems to move just like in real life. Morning becomes evening, characters grow older, clocks tick forward, but behind the scenes, none of that is real. It's all just data, algorithms, simulated rules designed to feel real, even though they are not. Now, step back and think about our own world. We wake up, eat breakfast, move through our days. We make plans, we age, and we feel time moving with us, steadily, invisibly. But what if, instead of time being a force of nature, it was simply part of the program? Just a rule written in by the creators of our reality, like gravity or sunlight. Some scientists have pointed to strange patterns in physics that suggest this might be possible. For example, when we study the tiniest particles in the universe, like electrons and quarks, we see that they behave in ways that almost look digital. They jump from one state to another, like flipping a switch. They don't slide smoothly. They leap like bits of information. Others point to mathematical laws that seem too perfect, equations that describe our world with beautiful precision, as if the universe wasn't random at all, but carefully coded, like a program with clear rules and clean lines. And if that's true, what is time? In a simulation, time could be anything: a speed setting, a loop, even an illusion. In some simulations, time can be paused, rewound, or sped up. Imagine if the same was true for our world. Not that we experience these changes, but that somewhere beyond our understanding, time is just a variable, something that can be adjusted, and maybe has been. But here's the twist. Even if we are in a simulation, and even if time is just a programmed feature, it feels real to us. And in some ways, maybe that's what matters most. Because the question is not just, is this real? The deeper question is, does it matter? If you laugh, cry, dream, and love, does it make a difference whether the world is made of atoms or code? If time helps us mark moments that shape who we are, does it truly matter if that time is created by nature or written by a programmer? Some scientists say that if we ever find out we are in a simulation, it wouldn't change much. The rules would still apply, gravity would still pull, time would still move, and we would still feel each second pass, just like we always have. But others say it would change everything, because if this is a simulation, then maybe there's something or someone outside of it, something watching, guiding, or maybe just experimenting. And in that case, maybe our understanding of time is only one version of the truth. Maybe outside the simulation, time doesn't even exist. Maybe it's only real inside the program. Or maybe we are the simulation creating ourselves. A loop of thought, a dream that became aware of its own dream. These are the kinds of questions that stretch the mind and soften the edges of what we think we know. Questions that don't always need answers, just space to breathe. So tonight, as you settle in and feel the slow rhythm of your breath, consider this. Even if time is code, it's beautiful code. Code that holds sunrises and lullabies, that gives us the chance to wonder, to learn, to pause and say, this moment is mine. And maybe that's enough. Even in a simulated world, a moment of wonder can still be real, a memory can still matter, a single second of stillness can still hold the whole universe inside it. And whether the clock ticks or the code runs, your experience of time, soft, strange, and fleeting, is yours. What happens when we stop tracking hours? Imagine waking up one morning and there's no clock on the wall, no phone glowing beside your bed, no calendar with dates circled, no alarm, no reminders, just silence, just the sun gently pouring in through the window. The world is still turning, birds are still singing, but somehow there's no pressure, no ticking, no rush. What would your day feel like? In the world we live in, time is everywhere. It fills our pockets, flashes from our screens, taps our wrists, and buzzes in our bags. We check it dozens of times a day without even realizing. We plan, we schedule, we count the minutes until lunch, the hours until bedtime. But what if we didn't? What happens when we stop living by the clock? Some people have tried it. Monks in remote monasteries, artists deep in their creative flow, campers in the wilderness. They live without clocks, sometimes for days, weeks, even years. They eat when hungry, sleep when tired, work when inspired, rest when needed, and time begins to feel different. Not gone, just softer. Without the constant measuring and marking, the pressure begins to lift. You're no longer racing against the clock. You're moving with your own rhythm. You notice the light changing in the sky. You listen to your body. You feel time, not in minutes or hours, but in moments. A breeze that lasts longer than it should. A conversation that goes deeper than expected. A morning that stretches into afternoon without anyone saying, what time is it? And strangely, life doesn't fall apart. And strangely, life doesn't fall apart. Pure fantasy here. Of course, clocks are helpful. They keep planes flying, ovens baking, and meetings running. But there's a hidden cost to always living by them. We can become so focused on time that we miss what's happening in time. We rush through breakfast, already thinking about the next thing. We cut short joy because the clock says we must. We fall asleep wondering where the day went. But the truth is, time doesn't move faster when you stop watching it. What changes is you. Letting go of time doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing things more fully. It means giving your attention, your presence, your care, not just your hours. It means being where you are instead of checking how long you've been there. There's something freeing about not knowing the time. It invites you into now, and now is where life happens. Try it, even for a short while. Take off your watch, leave your phone in another room. Spend a morning or afternoon without checking the time. Let your body lead. Let light and sound and feeling be your guide. Let time flow like water, not something to catch or control, but something to float in. You might be surprised. Food tastes better when not rushed. Walks feel longer, though they might be shorter. Conversations stretch out like soft yarn, and sleep comes easier when you don't count the hours before it arrives. In these timeless spaces, the world softens. You start to realize that so many of the things we thought were urgent can wait. So many of the things we chased weren't as important as we believed. You feel lighter, not because time has changed, but because your relationship with time has. You are no longer a prisoner of the ticking clock. You're a traveler, a witness, a soul in motion, not a machine with a schedule. Even nature moves without clocks. Trees don't know the hour, rivers don't care what day it is. The moon rises on no one's deadline, and still, everything gets done. So perhaps it's not about abandoning time, but remembering that it's not our master. It's a tool, a map, a way to navigate the world, but it was never meant to be a cage. When we let go of time, even briefly, we return to something older than any calendar. We return to rhythm, to breath, to being. So tonight, as you lay down and close your eyes, notice this moment, not what time it is, not how many hours of sleep you'll get, just this breath, this stillness, this quiet now, and ask yourself, who am I when I'm not keeping track? The answer might just be the real you. Moments that feel eternal, love, awe, silence, beyond seconds or schedules. Have you ever had a moment so full, so rich, that time seemed to slip away entirely? Not just pass quickly, like when you're having fun, but disappear, as if the clock simply stopped, as if you stepped outside of time altogether. Maybe it was the first time you held someone's hand and felt electricity run through your fingers, or the instant your child laughed for the first time and nothing else in the world existed. Or maybe it was standing alone beneath a sky full of stars, where the universe stretched out forever and your thoughts fell completely silent. Moments like these do not ask for your attention, they take it gently, they hold you, and in them, minutes stop mattering, schedules vanish, all that's left is now. Scientists call this temporal disintegration, a fancy name for what we already know, that time isn't always steady. It bends when we're deeply present, in joy, in wonder, in love. Time melts when we're fully awake to what's in front of us. We measure time with clocks and calendars, but the soul measures time in moments. You don't remember every Tuesday at 3 p.m. You remember the moment you said goodbye at the airport, the afternoon you got unexpected news, the morning you watched the ocean breathe for the first time. These moments may have lasted seconds or hours, but they live in your memory as something far deeper, timeless. A child's sleepy hug, the quiet before a storm, the gaze of someone who truly sees you. These are not just experiences, they are doorways. Through them, you fall out of the world of ticking seconds and into something slower, softer, more eternal. Not eternal as in forever, but eternal as in now, completely. Even silence can feel eternal. Have you noticed? Not awkward silence, but sacred silence, the kind you feel at the end of a beautiful song, the hush in a forest just after snowfall, the pause in a conversation when no one speaks, but everything is understood. These silences stretch wide. They hold something bigger than words, and when you're inside them, time seems to hold its breath with you. Or does this too? The Grand Canyon, a thunderstorm, a painting that stops you mid step or catches you off guard. It removes all your thoughts, worries, and to do lists. You are just there, looking, breathing, feeling. Time has no say in awe. And love. Love might be the deepest time bender of all, because love slows time when you're apart and makes it disappear when you're together. A single hour with someone you love can feel like 5 minutes. A single day without them can feel like a week. Love doesn't follow the clock, it follows the heart. When you truly love a person, a place, a purpose, time stops being something you manage. It becomes something you pour. You give your time like a gift without counting, and the moment, however long or short, becomes eternal in meaning. We often chase time, but maybe what we're really chasing is these moments. The ones that take our breath away, the ones that make us forget what day it is, the ones where we feel truly alive. And here's the thing, these moments are not rare. They're not hiding, they're just quiet. You don't need a mountaintop or a perfect sunset. You need presence, attention, stillness. That's where timelessness lives. Even the smallest things can open the door. Watching your pet sleep, feeling warm tea in your hands, the golden light on your floor in the late afternoon, a single kind word from someone you love. The trick is not to chase eternal moments, but to notice them, to let them find you. So maybe, just maybe, the eternal isn't some far off place in the cosmos. Maybe it's already here, tucked inside our ordinary lives, waiting to be seen, not by our clocks, but by our hearts. Because in the end, we don't remember time. We remember what made time stand still, the stillness between seconds. We pause, breathe. That's where timelessness lives. There's a quiet place most people miss, a hidden space, not marked on any map and not tracked by any clock. You can't measure it, you can't hold it, but you've felt it before in the stillness that comes just after something ends and just before something begins. It's the moment between seconds, the pause between your inhale and your exhale, the silence just after the final note of a song, the hush in the air before someone says, I love you. These tiny spaces, these gentle in betweens, are not empty, they're full, full of presence, full of awareness, full of something we rarely take time to feel. Because we're often rushing from one thing to the next. Wake up, check the clock, make it to work, answer the messages, cook the meal, finish the list, sleep, repeat. But have you ever just stopped? Not because you had to, but because you chose to. No deadline, no expectation, just stillness. In that stillness, something strange happens. Time seems to soften. It stretches, then thins, and sometimes it even disappears. You're no longer in the past, thinking about what just happened. You're no longer leaning into the future, worrying about what's next. You're simply here, fully, in the now. We often think time is made of hours and minutes, but maybe it's really made of pauses, and maybe the most important moments in life happen in the spaces in between question and answer, between thought and word, between what was and what will be. The world teaches us to fill our days, but sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. To sit quietly, to listen, to feel your breath as it moves in and out, to hear the gentle ticking of a clock without needing to follow it anywhere. Stillness is not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of peace. You can find it in a single moment of meditation, in the way sunlight plays on a wall, in the warmth of your blanket, in the rhythm of your heartbeat, in the spaces between your thoughts. This stillness, the kind that lives in the cracks between seconds, it doesn't ask for anything, it just invites you to be. You don't need a mountain or a monastery. You don't need hours of free time. You only need now. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a slow breath in. Hold it, just for a second. Now gently let it out. Did you feel it? That tiny pause in between? That's the doorway, and the doorway to timelessness. In that quiet, there's no rush, no aging, no pressure to do or become anything else. Just this, just presence. And strangely, it's in that stillness where we feel most alive, not in the chaos, not in the noise, but in the quiet space where we simply are. The stillness between seconds is not some mystical idea. It's real, it's available, and it waits for you each day in the moments you often overlook. When your tea is steeping and nothing is urgent, when you're watching the rain tap softly on the window, when a breeze moves across your skin and you stop to feel it, these are not distractions from life. They are life, the deep, quiet kind. And when you step into that stillness, you step into something more ancient than time itself, a kind of knowing, a kind of peace, a kind of presence that doesn't wear a watch. The truth is, most of the universe exists in silence. In space, nothing ticks, nothing chimes, and yet everything moves in rhythm, slow, patient, eternal. So maybe when we pause, when we get quiet, we remember something the world forgets. That time isn't something we always have to chase. Sometimes it's something we're allowed to step outside of. And it begins with a breath, with a pause, with the stillness between seconds. What if time is nothing more than motion? Imagine standing still in a quiet forest. The air is calm, the trees do not sway, even the birds are silent. For a moment, it feels like the world has stopped. There's no ticking clock, no footsteps, no sound, just stillness. Now imagine a single leaf falling. It spins gently, drifting through the air until it touches the ground. Something has changed. A moment has passed. And even though you didn't hear a chime or see a second hand move, you know time has moved forward. But how did you know? Was it the sound, the number, the feeling, or was it simply the change? That quiet leaf might be the key to a very big idea. Maybe time, as we usually think of it, isn't really a separate thing. Maybe it's not a mysterious force ticking away in the background. Maybe time is just what happens when something moves, shifts, or transforms. Maybe time is change. Think about it. When the sky fades from orange to dark blue, we say the sun has set and time has passed. When your tea cools from hot to warm, we say time has moved on. When we age, when seasons turn, when flowers bloom and fade, all of these are changes, and all of them feel like time. But if nothing changed, would time still exist? If every atom in the universe stopped moving, if there were no sound, no thought, no flicker of light, could you measure time? Would you even notice it? Without change, there is no before and after. No, this came first, and this came next. Just a quiet pause that stretches forever. So maybe time isn't something out there, flowing like a river. Maybe it lives in here, in our noticing of change, in our memories, in the way we say, that happened then, or this is happening now. In science, clocks measure motion, the swing of a pendulum, the vibration of a crystal, the movement of light. Every second that ticks by is tied to something that moved, something that changed. Even the most precise atomic clocks buried deep inside laboratories are really just watching the dance of particles. And when that dance slows or speeds up, say near a black hole or on a fast moving spaceship, time itself seems to change. But if the particles didn't move at all, could the clock still tick? It's a curious thought, but hey, now picture the entire universe, galaxies spinning, stars being born, planets orbiting in wide, graceful loops, atoms shifting, cells dividing, thoughts forming, change layered upon change. And with each shift, we say, there goes another second, another minute, another year. Maybe time isn't a straight line. Maybe it's a collection of movements stacked like dominoes, one after another, a heartbeat, a blink, a breath. Even language shows us this. We don't say, I felt the time pass. We say, I saw things change. The child grew taller. The snow began to melt. The moon became full. Each sentence is about transformation. And through that lens, maybe time is not the cause of change, but the name we give to the experience of it. You don't need a calendar to feel time. You feel it when a goodbye lingers in the air, when a laugh fades into silence, when a candle burns low. And yet some moments feel timeless, a quiet hug, a sunrise, a song that makes you stop and close your eyes. In those moments, even though change is happening, it feels like it isn't, as if you've stepped outside the usual rhythm, as if change has slowed down just enough for you to catch your breath and notice it. And maybe that's the magic of this idea. If time is just change, then we are not trapped in it. We are part of it. We're not separate from the clock. We are the ticking. We are the movement, the memories, the growth, the shift from who we were to who we are becoming. You are not outside of time. You are time unfolding. So the next time you feel the minutes slipping through your fingers or the years rushing by too fast, pause, look around, and notice what's changing. Because maybe that's all time really is. The world in motion, gently whispering, I'm still here. I'm still becoming. Heartbeat, breath, aging, the universe telling time through you. Have you ever noticed how your body keeps time, even when you forget to? You wake up in the morning, often without an alarm. You get hungry around the same times each day. You get sleepy when the sky turns dark. Without even thinking, your body follows a rhythm, a quiet ticking you carry with you from the moment you're born. That rhythm is not random. It's time living inside you. Your heart beats steadily, pushing blood through your veins, each beat a quiet drum, counting out your life, second by second. You don't need a watch to know it's there. You can feel it in your chest, in your wrist, sometimes in your ears when the world gets quiet. Your breath is another clock. Inhale, exhale, inhale again. You do this about 20,000 times a day without even noticing. Each breath marks a moment, a cycle, a rhythm that has been repeating since the day you took your very first one. Even your cells have clocks, tiny ones. Some tell your body when to wake up, others tell your stomach when to digest food, your brain when to rest, your skin when to heal. These clocks keep ticking even when you're asleep, even when the world outside feels still. And as the days pass, something else changes too. Your body. Your hair grows, your skin renews, your bones stretch and shift. You age. You don't notice it day by day, but if you looked at a picture of yourself from years ago, you'd see it. The slow unfolding of time, written in your face, your posture, your smile. It's easy to think of time as something outside of us, as numbers on a clock or dates on a calendar, but in truth, we are made of time, woven into its fabric, not separate from the passing moments, but shaped by them. Your body is a living journal of time's passage. It remembers, it adapts, it carries your history in muscles and bones and breath. Even your memories are timed. Your brain stores them like snapshots from a journey, helping you mark when things happened, what came before, and what came after. Time is not just in your schedule, it is in your story. The ancient philosophers used to say that humans are the measure of all things. Maybe they were right, especially when it comes to time. We created seconds, minutes, and hours. We invented clocks and calendars, but we based them all on something very old and very familiar patterns in the sky. Yes, but also the rhythms in our own bodies. The beating of a heart, the rising and setting of breath, the arc of a life. Before sundials and smartwatches, people told time by looking at the sun, or by listening to birds, or simply by feeling hunger and sleepiness rise. They knew the world around them ticked with the same rhythm that echoed inside them. So, what if the most honest clock isn't on your phone, but in your chest? What if you don't need to chase time because you are time? Right now, as you sit or lie still, your heart is ticking, your breath is flowing, and your cells, quietly and gently, are turning the pages of your life's invisible calendar. You are not separate from the universe's rhythm, you are part of it. And that means wherever you are, no matter the time zone, no matter what the clock says, there's a kind of peace in knowing you already carry the most perfect timekeeper with you. You don't need to rush, you don't need to catch up, and you're already in time, of time, through time. So maybe tonight, as you close your eyes, listen to your own rhythm for a moment, your breath, soft and steady, your heartbeat, gentle and sure. This is time, not running out, just unfolding, just becoming. And you are the clock. If you looked out your window right now, could you point to time? You might see shadows getting longer, the sky fading from gold to deep blue. Maybe you hear a clock ticking in the distance, or feel your tea going cold in your hands. But none of those things are time itself. They're just signs that time has passed. And we never actually see time. We only see what time changes. A flower doesn't suddenly bloom before your eyes. You look away for a while, a few hours, a day, and when you return, it has opened. You didn't see time move. You saw petals stretch. You saw color deepen. You saw life respond to something invisible. Time doesn't leave footprints or cast a shadow. It doesn't have a shape or a color. You can't hold it or hear it speak, and yet it is one of the most powerful forces in our lives. You know when something is getting older. You see it in the crumpled pages of a well read book, the lines on a loved one's face, the way a favorite sweater becomes softer the more you wear it. But you never see time arrive. It just happens quietly in the background. Even the things we think of as measuring time, like clocks or calendars, are not time itself. They are tools, human made ways of noticing what time has done. Imagine watching a candle burn. You don't see time flowing past the wax. You see the candle shrinking, the flame flickering, the melted pool slowly widening. You see change. You feel it in the warmth that fades as the candle dies down. That's time, not as a thing, but as an effect. It's like wind. And you don't see the air move, but you see the leaves dance. You feel your hair lift. You hear the creak of the trees. Wind itself is invisible, but its presence is clear. Time works the same way. You might remember a moment when you were with someone you loved. Maybe you were laughing, or crying, or just sitting in quiet comfort. That moment passed. You didn't see it leave, but now it lives in your memory, marked by everything it changed inside you. We often speak of time as something that flies or slips away, as if it has wings, as if we could chase it or catch it. But the truth is, we're not chasing time. We're watching the world around us change, and calling that change time. Think about music, and the notes rise and fall, one after another. The melody moves forward. But what is really moving? The sound? The silence between? Or is it us, our mind, listening, remembering, expecting, that creates the feeling of time? In that way, time is not something we see or even hear. It's something we sense, something we experience by noticing difference between before and after, between now and next. A child grows, a wound heals, a season ends. None of these things happen in an instant, but when they do happen, we know that time has been there, passing through quietly, like a soft breeze, never seen, only felt. So when people say, "Where did the time go?" the answer is always the same. It didn't go anywhere. It was never something you could watch walking away. It just quietly changed things. The room you sit in, the person you've become, the world you live in. Time is the sculptor we never meet, carving everything with hands we can't see. It ages stars and stirs oceans. It fades photographs and stretches forests. It wraps itself around everything we know, not as a line we can follow, but as a quiet artist shaping the present from the clay of the past. And maybe that's why time feels so strange, because no matter how much it touches, it never shows its face. It is always behind the curtain, always just out of reach, but always, always there. There's something strange that happens every night, something so ordinary, we forget how mysterious it really is. You lie down, the lights go off, maybe a soft breeze rustles the curtain, or a quiet hum fills the room. Your body starts to settle, and your breathing begins to slow. And then, just like that, time starts to slip away. Not all at once, but gently. The sharpness of the day fades into the softness of evening. The to do lists, the appointments, the questions, they drift to the edges of your mind like leaves floating toward the shore. And in their place comes something quieter, something slower, something much harder to describe. It's not that time stops, but it stops asking for your attention. You stop counting hours, you stop measuring moments, and instead you simply are. Have you ever noticed that the deeper into sleep you fall, the less you remember about time? One moment, you're staring at the ceiling. The next, your alarm is ringing. What happened in between? Dreams came, thoughts moved, your body repaired itself. But you weren't checking the clock. You weren't watching the minutes go by. You were simply drifting through a space where time has no edges. And that's the beautiful thing. Time keeps moving, but you no longer need to follow. In sleep, time loses its grip on you, its rules fade, its rhythm pauses, and yet somehow you still feel held. You might dream of running across mountaintops or talking to someone you haven't seen in years. You might fall, fly, laugh, or cry, all in the space of just a few minutes. But inside the dream, it feels real. It feels long. It feels like time stretches to meet whatever your mind is experiencing. Because the brain doesn't always care what the clock says, it cares what you feel. That's why 5 minutes of waiting in line can feel like forever, while 5 hours with someone you love disappear in the blink of an eye. Our perception of time is elastic, and sleep is where it stretches the most. When we let go of control, when we surrender to rest, we step into something beyond schedules, beyond seconds, beyond structure. This doesn't mean time stops existing, but it does mean we can step outside of its spotlight for a while. We can stop chasing it, stop fearing it, stop trying to catch up to it, and instead, we can just rest inside it, like floating in water that carries us gently downstream. No effort, no struggle, just trust. And maybe that's what rest is, more than anything else, a kind of trust. A trust that the world will keep turning, that your breath will keep flowing, that the stars will still rise and fall, even if you aren't watching the clock, even if you let go. And when you wake, time will be waiting right where you left it. But for now, as your eyes grow heavy and the stillness deepens, let time drift to the background. Let the ticking of the world soften. Let your thoughts slow like footsteps in the snow. There's nothing to chase, nothing to prove, nothing to plan. Just a soft moment right here between you and the quiet. You don't have to fall asleep just yet, but you also don't have to keep up with time. Not right now. Just breathe, just feel, just rest, and let time, for once, follow you. You've made it all the way here, dear traveler, through clocks and galaxies, memories and dreams, black holes and meditations. Together we've wandered across seconds, stretched across centuries, and tiptoed through the strange spaces where time almost disappears. But now, here in this quiet moment, there's no need to chase another idea, no need to question or explain. Just breathe. Because time, that old companion we've followed since the start, has finally stepped aside. The ticking has faded, the rhythm has softened, and all that's left is stillness. You are not behind, you are not late, you are not running out of anything. You are here, and that's all you've ever needed to be. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your thoughts untangle. You don't need to make sense of everything. Some things, like time, like dreams, like wonder, were never meant to be caught, only felt. Maybe time was never a thing at all. Maybe it was just our way of holding the unholdable, of putting borders on the boundless, of drawing little lines between our days, just so we could find our place inside them. But in this moment, you are outside the lines. They no calendar, no clock, no countdown, just breath, just stillness, just now. Be- Think of all the moments in your life that felt timeless, a quiet hug, a deep laugh, the smell of the air before it rains, the way sunlight dances across the wall in the late afternoon. Did you measure those moments in seconds, or did they simply live? Sometimes, the most real things are the ones we cannot time. So, if your mind feels softer now, if your heart feels slower, if your eyes feel a little heavier, that's not just rest. That's you stepping gently into a place where time doesn't need to follow. This is your space, your breath, your pause. The world can wait. You've spent your whole life listening to the tick-tock. Tonight, let it listen to you. Let the seconds bend around your dreams. Let the hours slip away like quiet waves. Let sleep come, not as an end, but as a soft door into somewhere free, a place where clocks don't count and you don't need to be anywhere but here. Tomorrow will come, the sun will rise, and time will once again wrap its arms around your day. But for now, just float, just rest. You've earned this moment outside of time. So, good night, timeless traveler. Not because it's late, they, not because the clock says so, but because you're ready, and that's reason enough.